The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
What's going on, everybody? This is End Time Headlines. It is Wednesday, February 2nd. It's a little bit after 4 p.m. Eastern time. And at this time, I want to welcome all of our viewers that are live here on Facebook. Again, if this is your first time joining us, as always, you know the drill, or most of you guys, if it's your first time joining us, let us know in the comment section below that you are new, or maybe this is your second or third time back. We welcome you. Let us know where you're coming from, where you're joining us from, your location, and let us know that this is your first time joining us. Today, I want to deal with a particular subject in which I am calling, I've named this, the foundation of the beast system is falling into place. The foundation of the beast system, in my opinion, is now falling into place. So I'm going to read a verse of scripture to you that is going to really kind of be the catalyst of where I'm going, the foundation of this entire update, this message. So this is going to be Revelation 13, 16 through 18, very familiar passage to most of you guys that are familiar with this. This is Revelation 13, 16 through 18. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell. Now, this is the part I really want to home in today, and that is buying and selling, except one who has the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Again, what I want to emphasize to you today is this, simply that there is coming a beast, what I'd like to refer to as a beast system. We could call it an antichrist system, but it's really the false prophet who establishes this, and then the antichrist just puts his stamp of approval on it. And they come together. They come together as a team, and they establish this system, but don't miss it, of buying, selling, and trading. A system of buying, selling, and trading that it looks like that in order to buy, sell, or trade, you will come under a submission of a system that is put in place that will require an identification or an allegiance to this system through something that is put in or on your right hand or your forehead. So in order to get us there, we're not there yet. Is the technology there? Yes. Is the condition right for this? Yes. But are we there now? No. But I want to show you today, the point of this podcast today is I want to show you some things that are happening on an economic scale, a social scale, and a governmental scale. And you're going to hear me interchange that. You're going to hear the acronym ESG a lot. You need to get used to that. Economic, social, and governmental. Because I'm going to show you today, and I'm going to talk about today, how there's coming this trifecta policy. There's going to come this trifecta policy that's going to be implemented that is going to, the focal point is going to be on those three entities: environmental, social, and governmental. And we'll explain more about that in a second. But I want to let's get you up to par, and we're going to show you where we're going with this thing. Again, things have got to happen. Events have got to happen and transpire in order to get us from point A to point B of Bible prophecy. Just today, there was a new report that Eurozone is in what is called a free fall, as a new report is indicating that 19 countries have just hit a record inflation rates for a third month in a row. Again, consumer prices have jumped 5.1% from January 2021 and up from 5% in December. According to the report, inflation data from Germany and France fueled expectations of a hawkish shift from the ECB, while analysts have updated their forecasts for Eurozone inflation for January. Again, we're seeing inflation spiking, free fall of 19 countries at an all-time record. So it's just not just America. Again, we're seeing the entire Eurozone is impacted by this. And if you know anything about Bible prophecy, Europe is going to play a huge role in this. Because this is where I believe the seventh, not eighth, there's 8 empires of Bible prophecy. Go and study the book of Revelation. John saw 8. Daniel saw 7. Let me say that again. John saw 8, and the 8th empire will be ruled, reigned, and controlled by the Antichrist, working along the false prophet. I just showed you in Revelation 13. They're the ones that's going to implement this economic system of buying, selling, and trading that will only take place to those individuals who pledge their allegiance or take this mark or this number or this name of the beast. But, and according to John in the book of Revelation, there's going to be 8 empires. The Antichrist empire, or the beast empire, will be the final empire, but there's a 7th empire that John says will last a short space, or 42 months. And we did a whole podcast on this. I don't want to go on a sidetrack on this because this is not where I really want to go today. But there is, if you go to the book of Daniel, Daniel saw or really it was Nebuchadnezzar saw this he saw this image that had all these elements: the head, the arms, the thighs, the waist, the breastplate, all this. And then he gets down there to the 10 toe. He gets to the 2 feet and the 10 toes. And Daniel tells us that these are 10 kingdoms that will rise in the last days. And then up among them comes the little horn, or the Antichrist. Now, again, I believe we have went from all those empires, from the head all the way down to the 2 legs, which is the Roman Empire that split east and west. And now we are at current tense, currently right now, present tense rather, we're at the 2 feet and the 10 toes. Now, who are these 10 kingdoms? John mentions them in the book of Revelation. He says that whoever these 10 kingdoms are, they're going to surrender their power over to the Antichrist in 1 hour's time. Surrendering their sovereignty, surrendering their power, surrendering, their oil, their economy to who? The Antichrist. So he will control 10 kingdoms in the last days. And I believe, and a lot of scholars speculate, that these 10 kingdoms could come out of the European Union, or at least 5 of them will, and the other 5 may be Arab nations or Muslim nations. Again, this is all speculation. This is all, again, I've described it as seeing through a glass darkly. We see in part, and we know in part, and we prophesy in part. Because nobody can be dogmatic about that until it actually happens. But we know, according to the prophecy of Daniel and of John, that these things have to take place. But I want to show you, I want you to pay attention to things as this thing gets rolling. It's like a snowball on the top of a hill, and you make a snowball and you roll it, and then you toss it down the hill. The more momentum it gathers, the faster it goes. It begins to pick up more accumulation of snow, and it gets larger as it goes down. The farther it falls and quicker it falls, the larger this thing increases. This man that you see here is a man by the name of Klaus Schwab. You need to become acquainted with this man, because this man is behind the idea of what is now being circulated as, and by the way, the mainstream media, the government, and all these other entities want to mark anyone who even discusses this as conspiracy theorist. But this is all known information and facts out there. And by the way, it's absolutely, can I just go on a rant for a second? Just bear with me as I rant for about a minute. In order to even find anything about this, I couldn't even go on Google, because Google has so heavily suppressed their algorithms and their dictations that I had to go outside of Google to even find any information, because if you try to go on Google, they have suppressed all information on half of the things that you search for unless it fits the narrative, of course. But if it goes outside of the narrative, then it's just simply not going to generate it. You won't find it. You won't find, and I knew that there was information out there on it because I've seen it. But I'm sitting there going through Google, and for 2 minutes, I can't find a single thing on it and got fed up with it and had to go to a whole other search engine just to find any information about it. Even, and listen, YouTube is doing it, but who is owned by Google, so it's no surprise. Even my own site, guys, even our End Time Headlines ministry page, when I go and try to search for videos that we've done, podcasts that we've done, I know the titles of them. I know the content of them. I know the subjects in which we're talking about. So I go to top of YouTube to try to pull out some information I've done on previous podcasts. And I type in my name, the subject, or the title of the message, and I can't even find my own videos by searching it. So I had to go directly to my page, go directly to the archives, and I had to spend 10 minutes fishing through those podcasts to find it, when I should have, in theory, been able to put my name, put our ministry, put the title up, search it, and it come up. But no, Google has suppressed all that stuff. Why are they doing this? Because again, all this is falling into place. All this is falling into place. So let me go back. I want to talk about this man right here. This man is the man who's responsible for spearheading what's called the Great Reset. He co-authored a book called The Great Reset. And he is widely known and regularly speaks at the World Economic Forum conferences. This is the guy. Look, here's a quote from him. Quote, "A new world could emerge, the contours of which is incumbent on us to reimagine and to redraw." What is that about? Again, their goal is to simply, in some essence, is to push the reset button. And they're going to do this again. Let me say it again. And 3 main ways to do this, here it is again, is environmental, social, and governmental. Environmental, social, and government, or ESG. So what in the world are you talking about? How can I put this, guys? Again, I'm trying to use wisdom here, because we want the broadcast to remain up on the platform. We want this information to be known. If you've not noticed, there is a narrative that these three entities are all in common unity of, again, environmental, social, and governmental. Let's explain each one of them. Environmental. It is a known fact for anyone who's awake that the powers that be are pushing an agenda that deals with the environment. And I'm really suppressing what I say here for a purpose and for a reason. They have now created a narrative that deals with the environment that has put the whole world on alert. And the whole world has to succumb to the reality of this danger to the environment. And if you don't succumb to that, and you don't agree to that, then you will be marked. You will be penalized. You will be suppressed. You will be obsolete. You will be canceled. You will, if you're a corporation and you don't come on board with that and with that agenda, you will lose funding. You will lose your business. You will be taxed to death and taxed out of existence. And listen, it's not just going to come on a corporate level or business level, but it's coming into your homes. They are, why you think they're replacing smart, they're coming in to different states, and this is happening all over the place. They're going out on the outside of your home and they're replacing your meters with smart meters. They've already done this in some states now, where in the event of an emergency was to take place, you no longer have access to your heating and your cooling, your thermostat. There is a outside force that can now control your thermostat and dictate what temperature to put it on for the better of the environment. That's happening as we speak. And I can name states, but I'm not, but it's happening. Research it. You'll find out. Corporations are being forced to come on board with this. How far you want to go with this? Gasoline powered vehicles will become obsolete soon. If you even try to find a gas powered vehicle, you're going to be so heavily taxed, so heavily shamed, so heavily condemned that you won't even be able to afford it anyway. This is all happening, guys. And everyone's going to be impacted. What you eat will fall in this category. You eat meat, you eat any forms of meat, you are now a danger. You are now a threat because you are producing things that can be detrimental to our climate. Therefore, again, you will be marked. And mark my words, listen to this. Meat, and it's already happening, meat is going to go so high that the average consumer is not going to even be able to afford it. But again, and they'll blame it on inflation, they'll blame it on shortages, but this is all falling into place. It's all falling into place. And you guys that are like, well, it's time to start planting our own food. It's time to start growing our own food. It's time to get out there and get those gardens ready. Don't think that that's not going to be regulated. Do you know that there's places in the United States where you cannot farm on your own property? You can't find seed. And the seed that you do get, or the only seed that's going to be available to you to get, is going to be so, what's the word? It's going to be so filled with GMOs and other things that it's not even going to be of its pure form. That's happening, guys. They're even regulating rainwater. They're regulating water that forms on your property in mud puddles. And what water you pull out of wells and streams and lakes. Guys, isn't it wonderful? I mean, you're like, my Lord, Brother Ricky, did you come today just full of optimism? Oh, it gets better, guys. If you think we're having a jolly good time right now talking about this, oh, it gets much better. And I'm just on the environmental section of this. Let's talk about the social aspect of this. What's going to happen when you have a business and you have a corporation and you are not on board with certain movements that are culturally acceptable or culturally relevant or accepted? And I could give you certain movements that are being shoved down our throats. Several movements. And if you oppose those movements, you speak out against those movements, you don't want anything to do with those movements. If the powers that be find out that you are in opposition to certain groups and certain movements, then guess what? You will be marked. You will be ostracized. You will be penalized, and you could lose your business. And you say, well, how are they going to know that? We're going to get to that in this podcast in just a minute. We're going to tell you how they're going to do it. That's the social aspect of this. They're monitoring your Facebook, your Twitter, your part. And I love these people that are like, well, I'm going over here to Telegram. And I'm going to Parler. And I'm going to Getter because I've got the freedom to say what I want to say. Look, if you think for 1 minute that those are not regulated and that you think for 1 minute that they're not seeing what's being said there, come on, guys, really? When you get on the internet, everything you're doing, everything you're typing, everything that you're engaged with is being monitored and can be seen. Listen, if you have a smart TV in your home, that you can access the internet, whatever, it has just like your phone, your Android phone, your iPhone, whatever, your iOS device, if it has a camera, if it has a microphone, anything like that, like when you go to buy these streaming devices and you push the remote and you could speak to Alexa or you can speak to Siri, and because we're so lazy that we can't type in the numbers to the channels or we can't type in the letters on the keypad. So now we've become so lazy as a society, we have to actually speak into the remote so that it will come on, and we'll spend 15 minutes keep speaking the same thing over and over and over again because Siri can't understand our Southern accent and Alexa can't understand what we're saying. And we'll spend 15 minutes arguing with a stupid computer because it can't understand what we're saying when we could have spent 2 minutes typing out the thing in the first place. But that's where we are as a society. That television can see you. It can monitor you. It hears what you're saying. Everything is being monitored and observed. When the situation happened at the Capitol last January, there was individuals that was in the crowd and a certain proximity to the Capitol. And because they posted on social media accounts that they were there, they took selfies, whatever, their face was there, they were known, they were seen, they were put on a system, they were contacted. Some of them, read it, you can go discover this, some of their accounts were frozen. They had accounts back home, wherever they were from, and they went back home and they found out that their checking account was frozen. Or they come back home and they no longer had a job. Why? Because social media. Because their faces were recognized by facial recognition technology. Hello. Again, remember what I talked about at the beginning of this. Revelation 13. There's coming a day when you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade lest you have some type of mark on or in your hand or on your forehead. So this is a tracking system that they will use to identify those who are complying with the powers in place or those who are defying the powers in place. Let me move on. We talked about this last year, 2 years ago? China's social credit system that has been in place that we only could hope to God would never come to U.S. shores. Well, our worst fears have now become a reality. This social credit system in China that was created to rank citizens and punish them based on, here it is, how they lived their lives in a society that was governed by the powers that be. Now, listen, I touched on the environmental aspect, the social aspect. Now I'm going to talk about the governmental aspect of this. Let me read this headline. China's social credit system ranks citizens and punishes them with throttled internet speeds and flight bans if the Communist Party deems them untrustworthy.
So, picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked. The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen and determines what you're allowed to do, like ever. Boarding a train, getting a mortgage, all goes back to this score. It's called social credit. It sounds like that show Black Mirror, but it's actually happening in China. So how does that change you? Does it change you? What does your life look like when your every move is watched? The system's eyes are in big data, artificial intelligence, and roughly 200 million surveillance cameras. And that's totally fine with Ouyang Haoyu. She's 21, graduated from a good school with solid grades. She's diligent. She's nice. No surprise, she's a 752. That's her rating with Sesame Credit, a private company working with the government on the algorithms for the social credit system. The scores go from 350 to 950 and are based on habits and behavior. Buy clothes or diapers, it's good. A lot of alcohol, too many video games, not so good. Haoyu's 752 puts her in model citizen range and gets her discounts and privileges, like using a shared bike without a deposit. She likes it. Her friends do too. They all have pretty high scores.
It's a mechanism like pushes you to become a better citizen, to build on the trust, especially on the Chinese market.
Because you're not going to be punished if you haven't done anything wrong.
I think that's the point. I think the system is working as a warning or an alert to push people to do it, to be a good person.
And it's mandatory. When it goes national, social credit scores will be assigned to every one of China's citizens for life. And what's weird is that so many people seem okay with it. It's complicated, but China went from extreme poverty to economic giant pretty quickly. A credit history system didn't grow at the same pace, so people would default on loans and get away with it. Add in scandals around fake food, tainted baby milk, counterfeit goods, and what you've got is a big problem with trust. So, in 2014, the Communist Party called for a system to allow the trustworthy to roam everywhere under heaven while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. The model is a place called Rongcheng. It's in Shandong province. It's orderly. Streets are spotless. Cars slow down, which is unheard of in China. Words like honesty and credibility appear on propaganda posters. Display cases show pictures of Rongchong's most honored citizens. You start with 1,000 points, and you can print out your report anytime. You lose points for things like jaywalking, littering, tossing cigarette butts, or spreading rumors. Cameras do a lot of the surveillance work, but it's pretty analog too, like posters that list the ways you can gain or lose points. And each night, local TV shows the surveillance highlights of the day. And then there's Zhou Aini. She's an information collector, a paid enforcer who walks around and writes down deeds about her neighbors. Like the man who carried a drunk person home. Things like this are good deeds, she said. But the farmer overheard swearing and being rude, yeah, bad deeds. Her quota is 10 a month. She likes the work, thinks the city's better for it. The thing about the social credit system is that there isn't one single system, not yet. Different places have different rules. So what do you do if you have bad social credit? Well, for one, you talk about it on Weibo, which is like Twitter. There are forums for discredited people to vent and get advice. In Chongqing, we hooked up with Huang Huijun. He had a business until he was sued by a client, and Huang refused to pay 90 grand to settle it. So the court put him on a social credit blacklist, and things got way worse. He explains that being blacklisted means he can't buy airplane or train tickets. When he tries, a message pops up saying he's discredited. By the end of last year, blacklisted people were blocked from booking 23 million flights and 5 million high-speed train trips. And the list goes on. Being discredited makes it hard to get a job, a loan, a hotel room, or put kids in certain schools. Then there's the public shaming, photo galleries of blacklisted citizens. There's even an app that shows who around you is in debt. In China, being monitored is nothing new, but algorithmic surveillance makes it possible to collect data to build detailed profiles of people, especially the ones not loyal to the government. Of all the video surveillance cameras on the planet right now, nearly half of them are in China. Are people bothered by privacy concerns?
So we think the lot of camera keep the safety is really good things. A lot of people, we can accept it.
And cameras are getting smarter. So the information that comes up from my image identifies that I'm female, middle-aged, talks about whether I'm wearing glasses, the shape of my face. AI is taking them next level. They can do more than just see. They actually understand who they're seeing. So at what point can the technology know too much? Does it already?
Most time, people don't care about it. But if the technology learns too much, for example, cross the red line, it's not very good.
How far off are we from needing to draw those red lines?
It's very hard to say. I think maybe decades, I mean 10 years or 20 years, 15 years, maybe.
That's not very long.
Yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming.
And where does it all go? Hao Yu isn't so bothered. Her Sesame score is high. Life is good, and she's used to living most of it online. Soon, her education and medical records and any run-ins with the law will factor into her social credit score.
This is the same idea and the same concept, but it's a whole much more tyrannical. Now, since we're on this governmental thing, what do you think's going on right now with the whole Joe Rogan thing? If you think that's going to go away anytime soon, just because Joe Rogan came up and gave an apology, you actually think this is going to go away? Listen, they will not stop until he is removed.
What is the fight over Spotify really about? It is about Joe Rogan, and it is about misinformation. But really the fight is about, can somebody even as powerful now as Joe Rogan, somebody who a company is paying $100 million over 5 years to, and somebody who has 10 times the audience of Fox and CNN, 10 times the audience, probably about 8 times the audience of any show on the networks. Can he be allowed to speak? The answer is no. And now the federal government got involved over the weekend with the Surgeon General. And the Surgeon General said, you know, these places like Spotify, they just haven't done enough. Bend the knee. That is fascism. When governments control corporations, what they can and cannot do without owning them, that's fascism. When the government can tell you what you can and cannot say, that's fascism.
Why? Because of the influence that he has. This guy is pulling in more ratings, more people, more views than most of the mainstream media news outlets. They understand the threat. They understand his influence, and they are trying to make an example out of him, because if a company that is invested, $100 million a year or whatever the amount of money it is for him to be on their platform, if the powers that be can get him removed, what kind of precedents is that going to set, and what kind of example is that going to set for anybody else that would actually have an opposing opinion or view out there? It speaks to you that if we can remove somebody of this caliber, you are nothing but a flea on the back of a dog that we can flick off. You are not a threat to anyone. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I told you it was going to get better. Isn't it just wonderful? It's a wonderful Wednesday today. That fascism is alive and well in America. Welcome to America in 2022. But again, we can become infuriated. We can become angry. We can become become down and depressed about this. Or again, we have to remind ourselves that Bible prophecy has to be fulfilled. These things have to happen in order to, bring about what we have read about for generations. Sometimes it's just surreal that we are the generation that's actually living this out. Now, let's move on. I want to show you something. Senator Rand Paul recently had an interview, and by the way, again, live here on Facebook, we can't put the video up, but when you watch rebroadcast this, we're going to put the video up, the interview. Senator Rand Paul recently, this was last year, he warned that crypto could soon replace the dollar as the world's reserve currency.
But here's what I've started to believe now is that the government currencies are so unreliable. They're also fiat currencies. They're not backed by anything. The dollar's been more stable than most other countries, and so it is the reserve currency.
By the way, this is the spiel that made you a rock star with young people during your presidential campaign.
Well, I've started to question now whether or not cryptocurrency could actually become the reserve currency of the world as more and more people lose confidence in government.
And some people laughed at him. But I'm going to tell you something. Nobody's laughing now, because check this out. This was a recent article. The Federal Reserve released a long-awaited review of the potential, listen to this, for creating a central bank digital currency.
The Federal Reserve might want to fix your wallet by turning it from this into this. Though your wallet is still designed for dollar bills, Americans have been using cash to buy things less and less over the years. That's part of why the Fed is considering digitizing the US dollar, giving people money they can access on their phone and bypassing electronic payments that can be slow and costly for businesses. Some see this as a necessary upgrade to the US financial system, but others worry it could potentially upend commercial banking.
There are some very, very difficult questions to answer, but I think we are engaged in a serious program to understand both the technology and the policy issues.
A central bank digital currency, or CBDC, is exactly what it sounds like, a purely digital form of a country's money issued by its central bank that people can use just like cash. It's true that cards and apps already allow for electronic payment, but behind the scenes, these financial transactions involve several steps, settling payments over a patchwork of systems.
The plumbing of the system is still based on a cash system.
Josh Lipsky is the director of the Atlantic Council's Geoeconomic Center and says the US financial system is still pretty old school when it comes to moving money around.
It's based on banks talking to banks saying, hey, I need you to transfer this to me. We've updated some of that over the years, but if you were to look back, a lot of it dates back to the 1950s and before, and that's not a great way to run a modern global economy.
After a debit card is swiped, the transaction can flow through several entities, including point-of-sale systems, payment networks like Visa and MasterCard, your bank, and the merchant's bank. The system can take up to 3 days to move money between accounts, and often comes with transaction fees that can weigh heavily on small businesses, who experts say may have to pass the cost onto customers or put restrictions on card usage. These extra costs can limit their revenues and customer base. CBDCs could bypass this system, allowing digital money to flow directly between two people, in the same way you hand over cash at the register. One method the Fed is considering is issuing digital wallets to Americans directly, or through commercial banks or other financial service providers. The digital dollars themselves would be no more than computer code, possibly stored on a central ledger at the Fed or on a distributed ledger like many cryptocurrencies. When you use your wallet to pay for something, the Fed would take the digital cash out of your wallet and deposit it into the merchants, simplifying the process and doing it without fees. These could be done through an app on a phone, or for those without smartphones, an SMS text message or debit card. Besides frictionless payments, a digital dollar could help the 8.4 million unbanked households who don't have a debit or credit card and can get left behind in a cashless world. For example, instead of mailing checks, the government could deposit your tax refund or stimulus payments directly into your Fed wallet, making the money available immediately. Proponents also say CBDCs offer a much more effective tool for central banks to enact monetary policy. Right now, the Fed influences interest rates across the entire economy by setting borrowing rates between banks, known as the federal funds rate. But this is often a fraught process that doesn't always produce the desired results.
The Fed sets this benchmark rate and other private banks are supposed to queue off it, and then your mortgage is supposed to queue off it. Does that really work? How much time does it take? And the answer that economists will tell you is it works, but there are probably more efficient ways to transfer monetary policy.
Economists believe that if the Federal Reserve were to assign interest rates to the money stored in digital wallets, it would be much more effective at influencing economic decision-making at the household level. According to a January survey, 60% of central banks around the world are currently experimenting with CBDCs. The Bahamas was the first country to release a digital currency, called the Sand Dollar, in October 2020. And China has been developing and testing a digital version of the yuan. But there are questions about how a digital currency would work in the US.
Legitimate digital public money could help drive out bogus digital private money. It could help improve financial inclusion, efficiency, and the safety of our financial system if that digital public money is well designed and efficiently executed, which are two very big ifs.
The recent rise of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and private currencies like Facebook's Diem have spurred central banks to explore CBDCs in an effort to keep pace. Experts say these alternative currencies expose the risk of money and payments circulating outside the watchful eyes of central banks.
This is a blind spot for them, because when they're setting monetary policy, they like to know how much money is in circulation, broadly how that money is being used, and so that helps them understand the macroeconomics and the fundamentals of the economy at any given time.
But by keeping up with new competitors, CBDCs could threaten to leave traditional banking behind.
So if the Fed were to become a bank in a traditional sense and actually issue people money and hold people's money directly, then you might hold less money in your Bank of America app, and that would cut into their business model. So they have to think about how digital currencies affect their business.
Because of these issues, the Federal Reserve is still studying the scope and structure of how a digital dollar would work and how it could be integrated into the current banking system.
The Fed doesn't want to start dealing with 300 million customers overnight. They're not equipped to do that. So you don't want to call up the Fed at midnight and say, I forgot my password. This is not something the Fed wants to be doing or can do. So they need to think about who to work with to deliver digital dollars.
The Fed would also have to tackle privacy concerns over how anonymous digital dollar payments should be, and whether the money should be restricted to specific transactions or programmed to expire after a certain time period to encourage spending. It plans to release a discussion paper on the benefits and risks of a digital dollar this summer, and has said it wouldn't move forward without support from Congress.
China has created its own digital currency. Again, what you see China doing, watch for America to follow in the footsteps. And that, friends, is terrifying. China created the social credit scoring, and now Google's already right in bed with that. Our government is already pushing forward with that. Don't even think that they're not in the works trying to do this right now. And again, the environmental, social, and governing those entities are all going to be involved in that social credit scoring system, all of it. And it will affect every man, woman, child, small, great, rich, free, poor, and bond. Everyone, all ethnicities, all groups, individually, corporately, doesn't matter. It will impact everybody. It's not a matter of if, but when it is coming. Then China decided to create its own currency, or its own digital currency. And you know what they did when they did it? They banned all other transactions of other cryptocurrencies. Why? Because they wanted one dominant currency, one digital currency. And if sure enough, if we're not doing the same thing, let me read you a headline to prove to you. Biden administration set to release executive order on crypto as early as February. Now, why? I'm going to read you a little bit of this. The Biden administration officials are promising to bring coherency to the industry, but just like everything else that they touch, it is far more likely that they are going to ruin the industry. One of the positive things about the cryptocurrency industry has been how relatively free from regulation it has been all these years. Well, that's about the end. And that's why they want to ban all other cryptocurrencies, because it's all about control and regulation. And by the way, why do they want to push a digital currency for us as citizens? The answer is simple, guys. And here's a little snippet and a little clue of this.
Let the IRS snooping begin. A new tax policy is requiring third-party payment networks like Venmo, PayPal, and others to report transactions of $600 or more to the Internal Revenue Service for tax purposes. Hillary Vaughn is live in Washington with the details for us. Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Jackie. Well, the idea behind this rule is to catch people cheating on their taxes, or make sure people are paying taxes they owe on income that they're making. But the new rule is really not going to put a bullseye on billionaires. Instead, it's going to be a big burden on a lot of small businesses, people that get paid by their customers and clients for goods and services through these apps like Zelle, PayPal, and Venmo. So this new rule would say transactions in those apps over $600 for goods and services now have to be reported to the IRS. This hits people like hairstylists, housekeepers, those in the gig economy, small shops at trade shows. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says they warned Congress back in March when it was passed that this would be a burden, telling me in a statement this, quote, "The Chamber cautioned Congress against imposing more red tape on small businesses during the last time Congress used reconciliation to jam through hyper for partisan legislation. This is another bad idea, and we should be helping small businesses navigate through the complexities that accompany tax season, not adding red tape and increasing audits. This only applies, though, to taxable income, not money that you may get transferred in these apps from friends or family. But some people say this still exposes people to more IRS intrusion.
What if I send money through Zelle to my child at school? I'm now going to have to prove that that wasn't payment for some kind of service. With a broad stroke, you can catch up a lot of people doing things that have nothing to do with taxes.
Jackie, technically, this is not a new tax, but it is one more thing that people are going to need to think about at tax time, and they're going to have to keep records of these transactions to make sure they can prove, if they get audited, that these transactions are not taxable.
If and when, and I say when, I don't even say if, but when we go to a full digital currency, listen to me, every transaction will be monitored, will be known, and will be tracked. Everyone. There won't be no under the table, this, behind closed doors, you know, every transaction. Now, here's the kicker. Why is that important? Because, listen to me, when they have access to track all your transactions, then, remember I told you I would talk about, I mentioned this earlier and I said I would come back to this. Once they are able to do this and they see your transactions, watch this. Hold that thought. I'm going to show you something. Look at this. Look at this headline because it's going to tie right in with what I'm getting ready to tell you. Ready? Quote, as cryptocurrencies gain popularity, churches test the future of money. In other words, churches are jumping right on board. You don't want to use cash, want to use cryptocurrency, want to use digital currency? Here you go. We're gonna put up the system here where you can just enter in your account information. And don't think that these modern progressive churches will make it even easier than that. They'll be like Disney, where you can just scan the palm of your hand. They'll be like Amazon, just scan the palm of your hand to make your transactions. Scan your face, facial recognition. Bring up your account. Make that. So it's cashless. But watch this. This is what I want to tell you. So here you are as a business. This is a hypothetical scenario. You say you own your own business, whatever that is, XYZ, whatever. You own you create widgets. You're a widget creation business, okay? Small owned business. And you're a believer, you're a Christian, and you tithe. All your increase through your business, you tithe the 10th of your increase out to your local church, the ministry that feeds you, whatever, wherever your storehouse is, that's where you tithe. Now, there's no more paper currency, it's just digital currency. It's just, it's now this, right? So now all these transactions can now be monitored, it can be tracked. So watch this. So now the government knows who you are supporting. So now they can research who is the church or the organization that you are supporting as a business. Are they environmentally friendly? Are they in agreement with the social agenda? Are they in agreement with the governmental regulations? Does that organization, does that church agree with certain policies, socially, economically, governmentally, politically? Do they advocate something that is divisive or dangerous? And if they see that, then guess who they're going to come after? You. Now you've just put a bullseye on yourself because they have record of your transactions and they can see that you are funding a group that they consider to be a hate group organization, terrorist organization, supremacist organization, a anti this or anti that organization, a denier of a certain agenda. Now, do you see where we're going with this, guys? Again, it's fascism. This is where we're at in America in 2022. And the frightening thing is this is why I get so upset when I see where we're going as a generation. Now, listen, I'm going to do kind of a part. It's really, if you want to be honest, I'm going to do a part 2 to this. And I'm going to do that on Friday. So you don't want to miss that. I'm going to give you an update on a topic that I have discussed, and I've warned, and I said, this is where we're going. Watch out for this. And I'm going to show you on Friday that this is exactly where we're going, and this is what's happening, and people are jumping on board with this. And again, I believe it ties right in with building the foundation for Revelation 13 and Bible prophecy. So listen, guys, endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. That's going to be our main website. That's going to be our landing page. If you've not yet subscribed yet, please go do that. If you've not downloaded our free app, it's available on Apple. It's available on Android. You can just type in End Time Headlines and you can get that free. If you're watching by Rumble, YouTube, or Facebook, right there in the description, when you get off of this live on Facebook, right there in the description, you're going to see where it says download our free app. You can just click on that link and it's going to take you right to the page, or you can get it on Android or Apple. Don't forget to do that. Push yes to push notifications. You're going to get our podcast anytime we do a new one, you'll be notified. All of our latest news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. It's all going to be there. And as always, guys, we want to give you an opportunity. Again, if this ministry is, if it's informative to you, if it's a blessing to you, if it's a revelation to you, if it's equipping to you, because we do equipping messages and we do a lot of revelatory messages. We do information message. We try to do we try to hit all angles. If this ministry is a continual source of blessing to you, we ask that you pray about becoming a partner. Whatever the Lord puts on your heart, you can do that 2 different ways. You can give electronically. You can give through our app right there on your screen, just going to the bottom of the app to the right, just click donate, or you can give on the main website at endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. If you wish to give by check or money order, you can do that simply by making it out to End Time Headlines, P.O. Box 1391, Monroe, Georgia 30655. Again, guys, we have a short window. We don't know how long. It could be months. It could be years. We don't know how long we're going to continue to be a voice crying in the wilderness. And we're going to do this as long as we can do this. So that's why we asked it, partners like you to help us, support us to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep doing it. We're not going to back down. We're going to make our face like flint, and we're going to speak the truth regardless if people like it or not. We're not about popularity. I'm not about trying to be the biggest and the best. And we're not about that. I'm just trying to be obedient to what the Lord has put on my heart and to be a watchman and warn you of the times and seasons in which we are in. And I want to leave you with Luke 21:28. We're going to sign off for today. We will not be back tomorrow. We'll be back on Friday. And again, we're going to do a kind of a part 2 to this. I'm going to share some information I think you'll find informative to you. But until then, I pray the Lord bless you, keep you, may his countenance shine upon you. And I'll leave you with Luke 21:28. When you begin to see all these things coming to pass, look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption is drawing near. God bless you guys. We'll see you on Friday.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.